Yay. Hooray for David Carr. Let's see. Now I've got to figure out how to share the right screen. Hold on a second. This is the trick with having too many complications. This meeting will be recorded. I started the recording button a moment ago. So our policy is that we may use stills and excerpts from the video as part of our publicity. If you're not comfortable with that, then I guess this isn't the club for you. Exceptions can be made on request. If you do something horribly embarrassing and you want me to destroy all the electrons, just let me know. But mostly we're sharing this for purposes of member education. We want to welcome you to online presenters. Toastmasters, we are an online club that is dedicated towards learning skills for better webinars and online events. We do that every week just by getting lots of practice, but we also do have some special workshops that we have set up, including one next week with Darren LaCroix, who's a world champion public speaker. Yes, that's what Darren says. Please join us, come, why would you not? In a few more weeks, we also have Cheryl Rausch, who's a very well-known speaker, professional speaker, coach to speakers, educator. She has sent out a survey that she'd like to gather some more information. She may actually also be in the audience for Darren's speech next week, but we hope you'll come back to see Cheryl as well and come see one of our regular meetings after you've visited the special ones. We want to thank RingCentral for allowing us to use the RingCentral meetings platform for free. That's the online meetings platform we're in. You'll notice it looks a lot like Zoom. It's basically their private labeled version of Zoom integrated with some other products. And they did want to let me know that RingCentral is winning in the cloud. They're taking over the world, and we're invited along for the ride. Important online meeting tip is to pay attention to your audio, use a headset or earbuds, or try and find some method if you're going to be attending on a regular basis to prevent audio feedback, prevent noise from the background from making it into the broadcast. The simplest thing actually is just to mute your mic when it's not your turn, but you can mute and unmute yourself with that button in the lower left-hand corner. We do encourage you to keep your video on so that we can see you as we go along. There are a couple of different modes for this video platform. There's either the gallery view where you get to see everybody, or you can go to the active speaker view where you see the person who is actively speaking at that moment. If you are interested in becoming a member, we encourage you to come to at least 2 meetings as a guest. The applications and online payment are at the join page on our website. This is an advanced club. It's not attended for absolute beginners. I think a radio professional, for example, could make a case that she has other skills that prepared her for this without necessarily having been in Toastmasters before. The default is that we expect you to have given at least 6 speeches in the Toastmasters program. And if you don't meet that requirement, we ask you to give a short speech about why you would be a good addition to the club, and the board can vote to make an exception to that rule. This is a change, actually. If you were here earlier meetings, we made everybody give a speech about why they wanted to join, and we decided after a while that that was not really necessary. With that, let's do it, and let's turn the meeting over to, I wanted to turn the meeting over to our Toastmaster of the Day, Jim Dent, and I don't see our Toastmaster of the Day, Jim Dent.
No, I'm here.
You are there. I'm so sorry, Jim Dent.
Yeah, I got in a little late. I joined right just after you started the presentation.
Okay.
So,
well, let me stop screen sharing, and I will give you the controls with all the superpowers. And you know how that works. You will get a mute all button will show up in the lower left-hand corner of the participants panel. And you can also mute people individually if necessary.
Okay.
And you are now the host.
Okay, I'm
Take it
looking
away.
for that. And
So if you go to participants, in the lower left-hand corner, you should see a mute all button.
oh yeah, I see it. Okay, I know where it's at now.
Okay. You're in charge. I'll shut up.
Okay, welcome everybody. I apologize I'm a little late today, but at least I got here for the beginning of the meeting. And we have a great round. I hope all three speakers are here. We have three speakers on the agenda. The agenda is full. I want to thank everybody for getting signed up in advance. And I'm going to start off by introducing our functionaries. Our grammarian is Morelli. Would you like to, is he here today?
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm supposed to be on our counter. Okay, I can.
It's Scott here, Jim. I'm actually the grammarian.
Oh, are you? Okay.
So,
Okay, Scott.
hello, Mr. Toastmaster. So, my facility today is I'm going to be listening very carefully for the good use of English language, and I'm also going to listen for memorable phrases. And the word of the day I've sort of picked today is fascinate. And what fascinate means is it's to bewitch or behold captive so others are powerless to resist. And it came into the English language in 1590 to 1600 as a Latin word, fascinatus. So I'd like everybody to try to use that word. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. I made that correction on my copy of the agenda. Our watcher today is Christian. Christian, is he here today? There he is.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the session. My role is it's very simple and quite challenging at the same time, is to pay attention to our screen presence online and to provide recommendations how we can improve it at the end of the session in my report. Over to you.
Okay, thank you. See, Morelli, you're the counter, is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
I'm the R counter, the unfascinating guy. So no one wants me to grade your R counters, those kind of things. So today I will be doing it slightly differently. I will be noting down the filler words, any type of filler words like RR or the use of non-understandable words like and, starting with a sentence with an and, so, or you know, those kind of things. I will be grouping. The groupings are following this: president, Toastmasters, general evaluator, and table topic master is forming one group. Then all the prepared speech case are forming the next group, and all the evaluators are the third group, and the fourth group is all the table topic speakers. So at the end of the roll, and I will be counting on a category wise. Back to Toastmaster.
Thank you. Our timer this evening is David.
Yes, Mr. Toastmaster, I will be showing green, yellow, and red indicators at the appropriate points. And I'm screwing around with a bit of software to help me do that today. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Okay, our chat monitor is going to be Dagmara.
Yes.
I see her, she's here.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? So I will be reading everything because I have a very special and unique role that they don't have in offline clubs. I will be a chat monitor. So this is the biggest difference, Roger, answering your question. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deborah Carr, is she here?
And I am the vote counter, which it really just explains it right
There you
there.
are. Right. Yeah, Deborah Carr is the vote counter. So anytime we're going to vote for best speaker, best evaluator, best topic tables, send a private chat to Deborah. And I will remind you of that later on. Okay. I think that's all of the functionaries. So we're ready to start with our speakers. Our first speaker is Adrienne. Did I pronounce that right, Adrienne?
Yes, that's correct.
Great. And she is going to be giving from the CC manual, Speaking to Inform. Is that correct? Or no, that's the advanced manual, or is the CC? That's an advanced manual. Advanced manual, that's right.
Can't see me very well.
Yeah. So be speaking from the advanced manual, Speaking to Inform. I think it's speech number 4. It's a fact-finding report. I didn't get anything from you as far as the speech title, so I'll let you.
I sent it in your chat.
Oh, did you? Okay. Let me look for it here. Yep, there it is.
I know, it's awfully dark.
Yeah, you got nice lights behind you, though.
I know, but can you see me? I look dark.
Yeah, you're a little dark. Anyway, let me move on with this. It's project number 4 from Speaking to Inform. Adrienne's a seasoned real estate broker and an investor for over 20 years of experience under her belt. She has a 5-minute speech with a 2-minute Q&A session for a total of 7 minutes. Is there a min and max for the speech, Adrienne?
7.
That's the max, 5 to 7?
Yeah, I'm doing 5 minutes on the speech, 7 on the Q&A.
Okay, but is there a green, red,
7
yellow,
total.
red for just the speech?
Yep, 7 total.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we knew that for the timer. So we
Yeah,
knew the
5 will
proper
go to Q&A.
Okay. And the title of Adrienne's speech is, I Love to Travel.
It's,
Is that right?
fellow Toastmasters and guests,
Oh.
welcome. It is my pleasure to speak to you tonight. I have unexpected guests in town, so I am outside trying to avoid the noise. My title of my speech tonight is Above the Law. There was something incredible that happened today. In the U.S., we have a little bit of controversy going on of things that are above the law. Some people say that the law enforcement officers are doing things that they feel that they're above the law and they can do whatever they want. And recently we had an issue where a lot of people felt that the president sometimes is doing things above the law. So today I want to talk about a couple of things that have happened based on history. And if in fact we are doing things above the law or if it's just someone's opinion. Trump's attorney today, John Dowds, said the president could never be guilty of the obstruction of justice because he is the country's top law enforcement officer. Now, that all came about because Michael Flynn took a plea deal as a result of a guilty plea to reduce the amount of jail time from approximately 35 years to 1 to 5. And there was an article on a segment on CNN today that talked about all of this and people being removed from office because of any high crimes or misdemeanors. Now, this isn't the first time someone's been accused of this. It's happened several times before that someone brings up, okay, well, once you've done this, it is grounds for impeachment. You have an option to be taken out of your office and be removed. Now, there are 2 other examples of this happening. Richard Nixon, once before, the Watergate, and also President Bill Clinton. He also had a situation with the Monica Lewinsky that people felt that they obstructed law. They didn't tell the truth. They didn't say what was going on, or they didn't necessarily lie. They just didn't say anything. And sometimes when you don't say anything, it's just as bad as telling the truth. Or that's our opinion of what that is. So the question is, do these people end up really being convicted of this crime because they should be impeached? Which is just a definition of impeachment is, a political process versus a legal process, which is normally done in the court system. In order to do that, you have to have a majority of the U.S. House of Representatives plus 2/3 vote of the U.S. Senate in order to equal a conviction. And where do we get that from? How do we come up with this? Under the U.S. Constitution's Article 2, Section 4, it says that we do have the option to impeach if it's a high crime or misdemeanor. Now, that is subject to whether we actually felt they did it or not. So when we talk about this, how do we determine when people are in fact above the law or not? It's a legitimate question. We all have opportunities to feel that we have been in situations that are above the law. There have been communities that felt that they have been in situations that the officers made a decision based on their job and how to react to a certain thing that happened. But then society said, hey, you shouldn't have done that. You're above the law. And in a split second, you have to make a decision. And you're using your judgment. So if I'm making a decision for my judgment, how is that above the law? And that's something that I would like for us to talk about today. At what point do you feel, or how can you validate someone's decision being above the law? I can't see our timer.
It's not green yet.
Okay, I can't see who the person is.
Yeah, it's David Carr.
Okay, awesome. So in these cases, and there are several of them, that we have to basically make a decision on how are we going to make decisions in these cases. Some people feel that it is right, and some people feel that it is wrong, even though the law states that there is an option. But it's going to be subject to our individual choices to determine if that is in fact above the law. So we have to decide, how should we best decide? When we're going to accuse people, when they're actually doing their job and they're doing the best thing that they possibly can, that now you made a bad decision and maybe that wasn't the best thing for you. In the case of Bill Clinton, most people know Monica Lewinsky brought charges against him, and he would not admit. He said that he did not have relations with the woman, and it became a big news media. There are times that the news is involved, and it actually helps to document all of these things, and we draw our own opinions before we even know the facts as the people in the community. There should be systems in place that will help us learn about things after we know the facts. But commonly when we're watching the news, the facts change. They release a statement, they go back, they retract the statement. This isn't true, we need to add this. And we don't really know what the real story is. Then when they get a conviction, we're surprised because we didn't think that that person should have gotten that conviction. It was not appropriate. At this time, what do you think? How do you think these issues should be handled? Question and answer.
Where does it come from that we are a nation of laws, not of men? So there should be no such thing as above the law.
That's a great question. It started with a group of people who sat around that created a board that says, hey, we're going to come up with these rules. And that subsequently became the Constitution, which was really based on someone's opinion of what they thought the law should be. Because at that time, some of those laws were biblically based. Well, you know, in today's society, some people don't necessarily believe in the religious laws that were based on the Constitution, so they don't feel like it applies to them. Some people are atheists. Some people have different beliefs. But the people who started the Constitution, that's what they felt those laws should be. So now in modern times, we're now seeing that people are going against those things and saying, hey, that's not what it is. It should really be something different.
It's time.
Yeah.
No more questions? Your time is up?
Yeah,
Okay, well, thank you,
7:18.
fellow Toastmasters.
Thank you, Adrian. Very interesting topic, and I thought there was going to be more questions. But if you do, add them to the chat. Send them to Adrian if you have any questions, and she can get back to you. We can discuss it later. Okay, next, our second speaker, as we move along here, is Norman Dow. And I see Rhonda is here. Rhonda's going to evaluate him. Norman is giving a speech from the Pathways Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals, Evaluation, and Feedback. So this is his second speech in that project. Norman, his introductions has some questions that seem straightforward are hard to answer. This speech is about Norman's attempt to answer a very basic question. What is man? The time for this speech is 5 to 7 minutes. The title is What is Man? Norman.
What is a man? Now, 4 years ago, my grandson posted that question on Facebook the day he turned 18. I don't think anyone answered him, but I've thought about what is the best way to answer the question, what is a man? As I thought about it, I decided to look at 3 stories of men who have influenced me in trying to answer the question, what is a man? On Christmas Eve, 1965, on the way back from Christmas shopping, the car skidded off a snowy road, killing my mother-in-law, the mother of 7. Her husband at 33 was left to raise 3 girls and 4 boys. The oldest was 13 and a special needs child. After the funeral, his family gathered around to divvy up the children. None of them believed that a 33-year-old single laborer could raise 7 children by himself. But he stopped them. He said that they were his children and his responsibility. He would raise them, and raise them he did. He provided for them, invested in their lives, taught them life lessons. He taught them values such as honesty, respect, and the value of hard work. My wife often repeats a statement he drilled into her: a man's word is his bond. My father, Preston Douglas Sr., was a man. In the early 60s, at a business meeting of a Texas Baptist convention, the budget was about to be passed when Ari Mangrum interrupted the chair. Mr. Chairman, what is that line item, $25,000 miscellaneous? In the early 60s, that was a lot of money. They, like today's politicians, had hoped that no one would notice the fine print. The leaders, angry at having to explain themselves, told them that he would never have a church that amounted to anything. He ended up pastoring a little church in Ballinger, Texas, that was so small and so poor that his people paid him with some produce or a chicken. His wife, a college graduate, actually had to go to work as the help, serving as a servant in people's homes so they would have enough money to eat. Years later, without rancor, he told me about it, and as he recounted what had happened, he said, I learned how to pray in Ballinger, Texas. If it had not been for Ballinger, Texas, I would not have been the man that I am today. Reverend Ariel Mangrum Jr. was a man. One day in the late 50s, my father, full of hope, walked into the personnel office of the Westfield, New Jersey school system. He was hopeful because his days as a menial laborer were about to end. Years earlier, he'd come to the school system to apply for a job as a teacher and was told that he had to have a master's degree in order to teach in that school system. Now he had a master's. There was an opening that he qualified for. No more menial labor for him. But he was mistaken. The job disappeared immediately when he walked through the door. He looked at the board and there was a job for a custodian, and he understood that school custodians were paid like beginning teachers, and he asked about that job. And he was told he had too much education. He wouldn't be happy. Dad walked away and continued to try to better himself, going to school, adding classes. And when he died, he had 3 masters, the 3rd master requiring over 100 semester hours. He was a civic activist. He helped people. He always forgave. He always tried to do what was best for his family and best for his community. Norman M. Dow Sr. was a man. These men taught me life lessons about being a man. Their lessons had nothing to do with physical strength or even exerting power over someone else. Instead, they dealt with the inner characteristics of a true man. They taught me integrity. Be internally consistent with your beliefs and actions. Morality. Know right from wrong and do what is right. Character. Be courageous in your convictions. Responsibility. Man up to the responsibilities that you have, no matter what the cost. What is a man? If you're a man and do these things, if you are a male and do these things, you will be a man. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Norman. And our 3rd speaker this evening is Maui. And she is working on the Competent Communication Manual, speech number 6, Vocal Variety. Maui is a techie manager based out of North Carolina. She is an active STEM volunteer and is passionate about giving back. She escapes in Indian classical music or Sanskrit language, studies outside of work in Toastmasters. She has been a member of Online Toastmasters since early this year and is working on her Competent Communicator projects. In the current speech, she plans to take us all to the Himalayas by sharing her journey. The speech is 5 to 7 minutes. The title is Maiden Trip to Himalayas, Maui.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Toastmaster Jim. Good morning, good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Do you think of Mount Everest when I say the Himalayas? I like to share my story of visiting the Himalayas through the tallest gondola in Asia, and it's quite far from Mount Everest. A few years ago, my husband came up with the idea of visiting the Himalayas during one of our trips to India. We were quite excited and fascinated too. We reached New Delhi, the capital city of India, and boarded a small plane to Kashmir. To add a little more insight, visiting Kashmir itself is adventurous due to the political unrest. I did have butterfly moments, but shrugged them off and decided to dive in with my husband. We were so much looking forward to our flight as it weaves through the magnificent Himalayan range before landing in Srinagar. It was peak summer. The temperatures can soar anywhere upwards of 100 degrees Fahrenheit in New Delhi. The flight had not started yet. That's when we started hearing vroom, vroom, vroom. Right after, there was a sudden fog-like appearance in front of us. I was quite worried. We had not received any announcements. The sound stopped for a bit and resumed back. Vroom, vroom, vroom. What was going on? The captain later announced, due to high heat, the engine was cranking as the AC was turned on. After those initial hiccups, the flight took off. It flew through the spectacular mountain range with such picturesque view of the terrain, varying from lush green vegetation to beautiful boulders to snow-capped peaks. It was a wonderful sight. We were greeted in Srinagar with tight security at the airport. After a couple days of local sightseeing, we were headed to Gulmarg, one of the highest peaks in the Himalayas. Gulmarg means pathway of roses. We took a horse ride, the only way to reach the base camp from where the gondola starts. We learned a very interesting tidbit. To ride a horse, first make an eye contact and greet him. He is just like us humans. As the gondola soared up the mountain, we were so engrossed in the breathtaking, silent majesty of the Himalayas. But our tour guide warned us. The deceivingly silent mountain can be extremely treacherous during the winter months with avalanches, that the mountain is closed for almost 6 months a year. There we were, the zenith we could reach. It was so lovely to see nothing but snow everywhere. The next day, after returning back to the city for some more local sightseeing and shopping, we retired at the hotel by the evening. A few minutes later, we heard gunshots. I was quite terrified and became restless, although we were reassured everything was okay. It is so unfortunate to learn and experience the trauma some of the world population going through every day as a norm. For us visitors, it was worrisome about our safety. At the airport the next day, we again went through a rigorous procedure. This time, we were asked to empty our carry-on completely, and every item had to go through chemical testing. Finally, we arrived at New Delhi safe and sound. You may wonder, is it all worth going through? Double or a triple S? If you get a chance, please plan a visit to the Himalayas, the majestic mountain, and enjoy nature's abundance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mahi. Before we move on, I want to remind everybody to cast your vote for the best speaker. Our three speakers were Adrian, Norman, and Mahi. Send your votes to Deborah Carr privately, and she'll tally up the votes and give us the results at the end of the meeting. Now on to the fun part, table topics. John Quick is our table topics master tonight. So
Thank
don't
you.
forget to use the word of the day.
Which is?
Go ahead, John. I don't remember what the word of the day was. Where's our grammarian?
Fascination.
Scott.
Fascinating or fascination.
Fascination.
Fascinating.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
Fascinating.
Go ahead.
Indeed.
Well done.
Indeed. Thank you. Let's have some fascinating table topics. Well, I warned you guys a little bit of foreshadowing in my introduction. Imagine you're speaking to people who've never heard of Toastmasters. First stop, Graham, I think the other day you told me something like you're in 9 clubs. So tell me, what is going on with this Toastmasters that would get you in so many clubs and keep you so busy and so interested in this experience?
Mr. Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, guests, I am a junkie. I freely acknowledge that there is no reason to be a member of 8 Toastmasters clubs, except that I get something back from each club that I am a member of. Why am I interested in Toastmasters? Toastmasters is about learning to be a better speaker, a better communicator, a better trainer, a better me in a lot of ways. But what I actually get out of being involved in so many Toastmasters clubs is something different from each one. From this club, for example, I am learning how to be an online presenter, how to present webinars, how to work within the constraints of the relatively small screen that we have here, so that gestures have to be kept close. From another club, I learn how to make every presentation about storytelling, because that's what it's all about. My home club I'm a member of because I like to be able to help mentor and help the development and growth of less experienced members. So the other thing is, of course, that when I gave up full-time work, my wife pointed out that I had said that I was marrying her for better or for worse, but not for lunch every day. And so I have to do something to fill in my time, and Toastmasters largely does that. Mr. Table Topics Master, I hope that was fascinating.
It's fascinating, it was. Thank you, Graham. As a reminder, these are 1 to 2 minute impromptu speeches that help us practice speaking on our feet, so to speak. Fascinating. Lois, I would like to know, in your Toastmasters experience, can you share with us what have you learned about mentorship in the Toastmasters program?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Mentorship. As you know, this is something that is near and dear to my heart because I love mentoring. I didn't know I was going to love mentoring until I actually got into it. But what did I learn from mentoring? One of the most important things I learned is to listen. That is a skill that actually takes a challenge for me. I have to stop and actively listen to understand, what do you want? Where are you going with your Toastmaster experience? If we're going to hook up as a mentor and a mentee, am I going to be the best match for you? Are you going to be a good match for me? I have found by getting together with my potential mentee and making sure that we're doing a good job together, it makes an incredible difference. What do I get out of it? Overall, I get the experience. I get to learn about other people, and I get to help, which is something I absolutely love to do. I know I'm not necessarily a Toastmaster junkie, but I am definitely a mentor junkie, because that is something that just makes me soar and makes me realize when you know something, it's fun to share, but the more you can listen, the better a mentor you can be. Mr. Table Topics Master. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lois. Fascinating. Last up for today. Here's a tough one. I want someone to demonstrate on camera what they've learned about leadership through the Toastmasters program. That person's going to be Carol Perhinsky.
Demonstrating leadership. You've given me a tough challenge. Behave yourself. Are you behaving? Is that a leader? You better believe our moms and dads are great leaders. And they're also terrible, aren't they? The whole point about leadership is that we have to learn and tweak our behavior to become stronger. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses as a leader. You, me, and our moms and dads. So when they tell us to behave themselves, they need to guide us on how to do that and why we need the motivation to do that. And they need to help us along this journey and give us kudos. And they need to also give us the, you could have done better. Let me talk with you, or as Lois mentioned, listen to you about why you chose this particular path instead of some of the others. And at the point of reflection, we usually know that we could have done better. The whole point about leadership is growth and learning of our people, the people we work with, and ourselves in particular. Thank you, John Quick.
Thank you, Carol. Also fascinating. Thanks, everyone, for participating today. See how easy it is to share your Toastmasters experience on video. Imagine if we market our club this way online. As I said, I'll put that presenting the community link in again, so you can see how we're doing it in District 47. There's no reason we can't do it as part of our online club as well. David will put the timing results in the chat. Remember to send Deborah Carr your vote for most fascinating table topics. Toastmaster.
Okay, thank you. If you can't remember the three table topic speakers, they were Graham, Lois, and Carol. Okay, we're going to move on to our speech evaluations. If I'm correct, Christian is our first evaluator that was going to evaluate speech number 1 by Adrian. Is that correct, Christian? Where's he at?
Sorry, I had muted myself and taken off my jacket because of my baby. So I apologize for that. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Adrian, thank you for the question and for raising it for everyone. Are we above the law? Is anyone above the law? That's actually a tough question to answer nowadays, and you actually made it clear. You provide facts that were clear with a recent illustration of what's happening in the US government, which I think no one is proud of, wherever we are in the world. And you also pivoted to another example, again from the post-US government, that made us question, are we above the law? You had the facts required and clear examples that your speech objectives were asking you to do. Congratulations for that. Adrian, you also had something that was difficult and is difficult for me to put into practice. That message thread. You had it, I felt you had it from start to finish, because you kept telling me and asking me, are we above the law? How do we decide that we are above the law? How to best decide? You had that question constant from start to finish, and that is very powerful when you have that in your speech, because that actually can lead you up to a very, very powerful call to action. And the call to action was not there for me, because Adrian, at the end of the message, as you were taking me on the journey with questions from start to finish, I felt the last question just ended abruptly. The last question was, how do you think this question should be handled? And I was like, where's the rest? I didn't feel that transition. You could have put a pause and then stated your own point, your own perspective on things, and lead me to that direction, to that call to action by asking me that question. So that's my first recommendation, Adrian. Have that impactful conclusion that you usually have and was missing today. My second recommendation, which I'm sure we would have had brought that entertaining factor to your speech that you usually have, is the variety in the voice. You had the volume, the pace was good, and I felt let down by the pitch. Maybe it was because of your environment, but I heard an Adrian who was rushing me through her speech, and the pitch was in the mouth area. It was quite high. I was like, oh, is she going to tone down? And you didn't tone down, because I felt you wanted to get over with, because you had 1 more minute left. You just wanted to rush through it. So my recommendation is take your time. You know your subject, take your time. But I do see you delivering that speech on a national platform, even a podcast. Thank you for sharing. And I look forward to your next speech, Adrian. Over to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. Moving along, our next evaluator is Rhonda Green. Now, Rhonda is a guest evaluator for Norman this evening. Rhonda, are you ready? We can't hear you yet. You are unmuted. Rhonda? Seems like she might be having some audio trouble.
Shall we move on to the next evaluator? And then if he comes back, you can always...
Yeah, let's move on to the next evaluator, and we'll see if we can get Rhonda back in here. So I have the evaluator for our speech number 3, which was Mauhi's speech, and that is being given by Arlene. Arlene?
Yes, fellow Toastmasters, Toastmaster of the day, and most of all, Mahi. I really enjoyed your speech. I was looking forward to hearing your speech about the Himalayas all week long. That's why I signed up to be your evaluator. I'd love to hear about people's travels. The topic was perfect for the vocal variety. Your volume was excellent. Your rate was really good. Your rate was, sometimes you were slower and faster. You went back and forth, but you were never too fast to understand every word. Your enunciation was perfect. Your pitch was good, a little bit high sometimes, but it was good. I loved when you did a little bit of whispering when you were quite worried. That was good. I like that. The pauses were good. You know, I didn't hear any ahs and ums. Your expressiveness was good. You could have been a little bit more expressive, but it was good. Your variety, your vocal variety was good, and your organization was excellent. The body language was good, but you could have used your hands a little bit more with the mountains, and you could have used your head a little bit more. You were kind of still. The only thing that I can think that would have improved that was if you'd had a map. I'm going to have to go to Google after the meeting and see exactly where you were. It would have been nice for you to show us a map. You didn't need any pictures because your word pictures were beautiful. The way you described the plains, the boulders, and then the snow-capped mountains. We were all there with you every step of the way. It sounds like it was a wonderful trip, and I'm going to look into it some more. I think I agree with you that everybody should go to the Himalayas. Very much so. Thank you. Back to you, Jimmy.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if we can connect with Rhonda again. Rhonda. Okay, she is unmuted.
She just texted me. She can hear us, but unfortunately we can't hear or see her. It's the first time she's had this kind of technical difficulty, so she can't participate.
Norman,
Okay.
I did send her the phone number. It is possible to call in.
Okay.
So
It might be her.
Rhonda, is that you?
Perhaps there's someone else that can give Norman a quick evaluation as we are clocking down on the time.
Yeah, Rhonda can always send Norman a handwritten evaluation later and give him another verbal privately. Does somebody want to give him a verbal evaluation just off the cuff?
I'll do it. I don't
Okay.
remember which particular manual exactly, Norman, but your story was very powerful. I loved how you dropped in at the end that it was your father. That built us up for so long with such an interesting character who was going through hardship and doing the hard work to overcome it nevertheless. And then when you dropped it in as your father, that was like a real shocker, which made it even all the more special. And then the way you built up the point and you talked about, I said, the hardships and the transition that your main character had to overcome and the adjustments in life that they had to make and the setbacks, that made it a good story arc overall. So it was a good heroic story built in to everyday life. And that makes it even the more believable and poignant as a story as opposed to some of the Hollywood style hero stories we see. That's all I have to say for now. But good job. Really enjoyed it.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Monica Tucker, our general evaluator. Monica?
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. The first one to, let's see what do you want me to also call like the grammarian?
Yes. Yeah, the
Is there a
functionaries,
report?
grammarian, the
Okay.
timer, counter.
Okay, grammarian, if we could get your report, I believe that's Scott.
Yes, Madam General Evaluator, I'm happy to give my report on the use of the English language. I'm glad to report that everybody behaved themselves quite well. I didn't pick up too much grammar mistakes, apart from probably a few people not following through with the correct pronunciation of a word. I've heard going, gonna a few times, and I'm not quite sure about David's comment about screwing around with a bit of software to do timing. Not quite sure whether that is correct English or correct grammar, but I did hear a great deal of phrases that were just magnificent. Mahi had so many descriptive and imagery language all through her speech, and that was fantastic. Some of the other ones I've heard were adventurous, butterfly moments. Vroom Vroom was really good. The engine was cranking. Mahi, that was excellent imagery language. And I had a few other really good high crimes of misdemeanor from Adrian, impeachment, Norman, his children and his responsibility, a man's word is his bond, some really great words. And there's so many through the whole meeting that had really great phrases. Lois, near and dear. Carol, behave yourself. I thought that was a good start to the table topics. Christian, call for action, transition, entertaining factor, which is I thought was a great phrase. And Arlene, back and forward and whispering in her evaluation. And John, Hollywood stories. And if we're going to look at who is fascinating the most, I'd have to say John Quick, but I'm sure some of those were loosely used. And I was even impressed with looking at the chat that Rolando used, fascinating in the chat. So well done to everybody. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mr. Grammarian. Krishna, as watcher, would you give your report, please?
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Now, the watcher has a challenging activity because I had to pay attention to how everyone was in terms of presence. I decided to make myself a guinea pig before the start of this meeting to show you what should not be done. The lighting at my place is not adequate because, as you can see, it feels like I'm in a sort of dark background where the sunlight is coming up. Online presenters is also an advanced club. So what I have in front of the camera is a disheveled look. That also is not appealing, especially for a guest. So using myself as a guinea pig to share this message. Very, very good news. All members besides me have a very decent online presence, and I'm going to share my recommendations to some members. We had people who were alive, and that's a big challenge when we are online. We had Graham, who was emotional. We had Lois Margolin, who was wow at Mahi's speech. That makes us look alive. We also had smiles, because smiles attract people. Jim Dent, Fabiola, and Trisha, congratulations to you. And exemplary screen presence were Dagmara, Roger from Dallas, John Quick, and Arlene. Spot on, smiling, very, very nice lighting. Thank you for sharing those. Do look up the recommendations from Arlene and John Quick. They posted that in previous sessions. Otherwise, very good screen presence. I look forward to the same presence in the next sessions. Over to you.
Thank you. Next would be Morelli with the ACcounter report.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Today's groupings are total 4 groups are here. The first, the biggest group is Toastmasters, President, General Evaluator, and the Table Topics Master. So because it is a big group, I was expecting more number of filler words. Surprisingly, it is not much. It is hardly only four of the filler words have been used with this biggest group. And the Table Topics, 3 people have the minimum most filler words. I could count only 1 of them, and that is an excellent one. And prepared speakers and evaluators have the maximum number of filler words. And some of the filler words that have been used by many of the people are, the common one is the R one, and then the next few words are like so, starting a sentence with the and, you know, and there are 1 instance of broken sentence and 1 instance of repeat sentence. Thank you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Morelli. Next will be the chat monitor, Dagmar.
As a chat monitor, I felt it's a great role because you live like in 2 parallel worlds. Things are happening when we speak and then we chat, and it's sometimes difficult to catch up. Anyway, it was great because a few guys shared very informative links, like John, who shared the link to the website when you can record video and share your experiences with Toastmasters, which I think is very awesome. You can still do that and grab the link right now. The second very important link was from David, who shared the link to Twitter, so you can follow our awesome online Toastmaster club. And I think two people, Fabiola and Lois, used the word fascinating, which is really awesome because this was the words of the day. So congratulations for that. And Roger was very active, asking questions and answering questions. So I found him very, very helpful today. Thank you, Roger, for being active member on chat as well. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dagmara. Now, David, if we could get your timers report so we can vote on best evaluator. And then while we're doing that, I will give my general evaluators report. You might have already put it in the chat and I missed it. I apologize. If you could just let me know.
Let's see. If I didn't, I'll put it there momentarily, or I'll post it again. But everybody was within time.
Okay. Thank you very much, David. The meeting started on time. We actually started a minute early, and it looks like we're going to end on time, hopefully. Overall, the meeting had a very positive and good theme. I loved it. Adrian, I loved your speech. And Norman, I really got a lot out of that. Looks like we had about 6 visitors. And I'm not sure, I think there's 19 members that are present. The table topics master, the Toastmasters experience, I always love learning from other Toastmasters and hearing about the stories that they have. And I loved every one of the table topics. They had a lot to share. And I always take something away when anyone speaks. And of course, our evaluators are doing an excellent job with giving us feedback and telling us how we can improve. One of the things that I noticed at the start of the meeting and in a couple of other places, and I'm newer to this online technology, so I'm learning as well, the glitches with technology and maybe doing some practice off this platform so that it's more comfortable and you work some of the glitches out, although that's probably going to happen too, even though you might not realize it's going to happen at the time. The more you use the technology, the better it would be. And another thing that I see, it's like an overload because you're watching a speaker, you're doing the chats. So I have to kind of pull back, and I don't know if anybody else is like that, and focus kind of on one thing before I go on to the next one. So overall, I thought it was a great meeting, and I'm looking forward to learning more and using more of these tools. And I want to turn it over now to our Toastmaster.
Okay, thank you. And what I'd like to do is turn this back over to our club president. David, if you want to do any final wrap-ups and get any comments from our visitors.
Sure. Comments from the visitors, I think, is what we'll concentrate on. We are a little bit past 9 o'clock, but
vote results also, David.
Oh, okay. Vote results. Well, why don't we do that first? Do we have the votes? Deborah?
We have them. This was a fascinating thing to count the votes tonight because we actually, well, let's start out. Norman for the speech. Everyone. For the for table topics, what was fascinating is we have a tie with Lois and Graham. Ta-da! And for the evaluator, we have John Quick. So it's been a fascinating meeting.
All right. And congratulations, John, for being the pitch hitter winner. That's great. Jennifer, can we ask you to give us a little bit of feedback on what you thought?
You can indeed. I was fascinated by this meeting and delighted to take part. I'm looking forward to my next guest appearance. Thank you.
All right. You're scoring points already. Janice.
It's great to be at the online presenters meeting again. I think this is the first time I have a full meeting where there is actually prepare speeches and table topics. I think I've been in some meeting that have a special guest presenter. So this is sort of the first full experience in Toastmaster in the online world. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to joining another meeting.
All right, thanks for visiting. Tricia, you've been here before. I'm not gonna pick on you. I'm gonna try and get some of the relative newcomers. Glynis?
Yeah, thank you.
You want to? Okay, thank you is good enough. All right, Nansen.
Oh, sorry, I pressed my unmute button by mistake. My apologies.
Okay,
Thank you
yeah.
for having me. I said it was good to see familiar faces like Carol over there, and you know, it sets the bar very high because I didn't expect this quality of meeting. So thank you for having me, and I look forward to joining a future meeting. Excellent presentations by everybody. Thank you.
Excellent. Nansen?
Thank you. It's the first time I attend the online meeting. I have attended many offline meetings for the master, but because I'm very far away from downtown, also I found a job and in the website and found just online meeting. And the first time I saw, wow, what are online meetings? I can't imagine how to install in the computer. But I think now it's very exciting for it is fantastic.
Great.
Okay.
We hope to see you back. Let me ask Roger also.
Thank you, Mr. President. First time online meeting, I've already picked up a few tips in terms of just absorbing what's been happening in this last hour. For example, giving a speech, there could be a challenge of having lack of audience participation because everybody's on mute. Energy, that's another part about energy because sometimes we speak and we're laying back like this. So we might not have the energy as we speak, and I could go on, but there are at least 3 or 4 things I've already wrote down. So thank you very much for the meeting.
Yeah, the muting is like a necessary, it does seem to be a necessary evil, but it's always a shame that they can't hear us laughing or reacting in any other way.
Yeah, it's not so much of a critique, meaning we have to do it one way or the other. It's more of now that I know this is what's going on, you be aware of it and you adjust accordingly.
Philip?
Yes, Mr. President. Again, I really enjoyed the meeting. I learned a lot. I love the topics of Carol. To be honest, I was a bit stumped at the beginning, but she did a great job. All in all, I really enjoyed the speeches. I enjoyed myself very much, and I hope we'll be back again.
All right.
Thank you,
David.
Mr. President.
David? This
Yes,
is Norman. Rhonda said that she really enjoyed it, and once she straightens out her technical difficulties, she will definitely visit us again and participate.
Okay, well, this is the one, that's probably the biggest lesson we've learned is that technology will always betray us when we at least want it to. A couple other things for members. Adrienne sent out a survey she would like people to send back just to give her a better sense. Adrienne Williams just stepped into the role of Vice President of Education mid-year, and she'd like you to help her understand where you're at in the program and what she can do to help. Also, we do still need to fill the position of Sergeant at Arms, which Arlene has done very wonderfully for many months, but she's decided to step down at the end of December. So we're looking for somebody else to step into that role, show up early and help open up our meetings. So give some thought about whether you can volunteer for that. Is there anything else we need to cover before we break up? We did do the eye counter. That's usually the thing I try and skip. Lois?
I just wanted to say welcome to all of our guests. I apologize for not being on the call in the very beginning, but you will all hear from me tomorrow morning. Thank you, Mr. President.
She will hunt you down. That's
Yes,
right.
I will.
And please retweet those videos, those promos for the session next week. We hope to see you at our special workshop with Darren LaCroix.
I believe Roger has something also to say, David.
Yes, Roger?
David, question about Pathway. Do you
Okay.
know when it will hit us in terms of this online group?
Oddly enough, the online clubs, even though Pathways is supposed to be more digital, will be among the last to move over to Pathways.
Gotcha. No problem.
So,
thank you.
All right. Well,
June next year.
Yeah. We'll say good night, everybody, and hope to see you next week and future weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Good night.